What is up, party people? Welcome back to the Above the Net podcast with Melissa Smith. I am your host, Melissa Smith. Most boring last name ever. Thanks a lot, husband. Y'all, this is the podcast where we are talking all things education, tips, encouragement, news, spicy topics, and even some recruiting in the world of volleyball and youth sports for both mamas and their daughters. So I hope you'll stay tuned. Today we have a spicy topic. It is a hot topic, trash talking in youth sports. I'll come at it from a volleyball angle, but of course this applies anywhere in life where kids are playing sports. I couldn't decide this week if I wanted to talk about trash talking or specialization in youth sports, because that's what I'm feeling really pressed about right now. But I want to have a little more time to do some research in terms of the specialization side and kind of see what sort of research has been done so I can bring some actual data to the table. So we will get to that next week. But this week we are going to talk trash talk. Again, I'm going to try to keep these under 10 minutes, y'all, so that we can get in, get out, and get on with life. But I think this will be a really interesting topic to talk about. But I want to preface it before we start by saying, as a 40-year-old woman and coach, I do not feel right speaking specifically about young people. And when I say young people, I mean people even in their 20s in college. Something about that doesn't feel right to me. Whether it's a boy or a girl, a man or a woman, I just don't feel right calling specifically kids out that I am not coaching, that I don't know a lot about, okay? All that to say, of course, this whole topic was brought up by the Women's National Championship game between LSU and Iowa, where some trash talking did ensue. And I will say that, just again, to preface so you know where I'm coming from, I have watched a lot of women's basketball this year. I live in Bloomington, Indiana. That's where IU is. And they were at one time ranked number 2 in the country. So I went to a lot of games. I went to the game specifically where IU played Iowa at home. And I was not a fan of all the trash talking that went on by Caitlin Clark, okay, that entire game. And I was outspoken about it with my husband. I was like, hey, that will not stand with me as a coach personally. I would never allow my child to behave that way in terms of taunting the crowd, complaining incessantly to the referees, and so on and so forth. That's just not the way I want my kiddos to play and that I want to see sports played. Man, woman, boy, girl, whatever, okay? She is an incredible player. Holy cow. To see her play in person is also amazing. And then to also see her outside of the sport, like so intelligent, just a student of the game, and seems like an incredible human. So again, she is a young woman. I don't want to come down on her or Angel Reese, or anyone else for that matter, who is young and still learning and growing. I don't feel like it's fair. But that's sort of the context we're operating in today. Here we go on trash talk. Number one, my view as a coach, it cannot and does not happen. And I'm going to lay out probably 5 or 6 reasons why I think that it's a no-brainer that trash talk is just like a negative for sports. Yeah, it gets viewership like anything else. That's why people watch Real Housewives, because it's drama and it's nasty and maybe it makes you feel better about, I don't know. People just want something to talk about, right? I mean, here I am talking about it. But let's go through why I've sort of come to this conclusion. Number one, I think when you trash talk, it overshadows your play. I mean, look at just this example specifically of the national championship game. It's been completely overshadowed by talk about trash talking. And for me, that's sad because there was some insane, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how incredibly talented these basketball players are. It blows my mind, but it's completely overshadowed because of trash talking. That didn't have to happen. You know what I mean? So especially if you're like an incredible player, you don't need to do that. Like, I promise you're going to get recognition just for your play. Like, you don't have to fall into that trap of like, you have to make a name for yourself by doing anything other than play the game. I just want kids to know that. And also in that vein, this whole thing of like, it's just who I am. I just want to be me. Well, there's a lot of things about me and a lot about things about me when I was that age that are a part of my personality that aren't inherently good. Like, there's a lot of things that I just felt like, you know what, that's me. And I just need to do it. Like, maybe fibbing here and there, right? Because I thought it was just, and I thought it was justifiable. Or, I don't know, whatever you want to use as an example. Like, that can't be our excuse to like make bad decisions. Like, I'm just being me. Just let me be me, unapologetically me. Because then where do we draw the line? Then everybody gets to be themselves and they can do whatever they want, because who gets to say where we draw the line? Whereas if we set boundaries and we draw the line as a coach and as a parent, as like, we're not going to trash talk. We're not going to say anything negative to the other team. We're not going to say anything negative to the officials. We're not going to say anything to the other coaches. We've drawn a line in the sand. It's very black and white. And then there's no gray area. Instead of saying, like, everybody just be themselves. Like, that's a free-for-all, okay? So that's the first thing. It really overshadows your play, and it sort of leads to this gray area of, like, what is right and wrong, whereas we can sort of nip that in the bud and just say, hey, who you're playing for and this team you're on is like, we're not doing that, okay? I think the second biggest thing is, what is the upside of trash talking? Like, what are we seeing as the positive of trash talking? I have been racking my brain for a couple days since the game of like, I'm not seeing the upside. Like, it's disrespectful to someone else. It's overshadowing your own play. It's disrespectful to the coach. Oftentimes it's disrespectful to the referees. Like, if someone thinks of a positive, let me know. Because I think the only positive I ever hear is, well, that's just who I am. It's my confidence. That's like just me showing confidence. I'm sorry, but confidence is quiet. Insecurity is loud. I know this from experience. And again, please hear me. I'm not talking to any specific person right now. I'm talking to all moms and all girls who are playing sports. And I'm talking to me as a high school and college player, okay? Because I'm guilty of all these things. But I've learned, right? Like, I've learned from experience that we don't have to go here. So that isn't confidence. Like, if you are confident and you know you're good, which these girls are good, they should know that they are talented and they have worked hard, and that is something to be respected. You don't have to diminish someone else. Like, you could pat yourself on the back. Like, you could be like, yes, like, that was amazing. Like, look at what we just did. Holy cow, I just worked my butt off. My teammates worked their butts off. Our coaches have been working for a whole season. Instead of looking at the other team and being like, ha, y'all got smashed. Like, that's not confident. Like, putting other people down, disrespecting other people, even turning your attention towards the other team, that to me isn't confidence. And again, we can disagree, but I think that's pretty clear. Confidence is quiet, insecurity is loud. I heard somebody else say, especially with NIL and just more and more attention being paid to women's sports, like, this is just a normal part of the game. This is what the girls are going to have to do to get attention. And that's very harmful for two reasons. One is it's telling women that, like, your play isn't enough. You got to do other stuff, like dress provocatively, speak in crazy words, trash talk, right? In order to have people respect you. And then the other thing is, I believe that as coaches and mamas, we can hold our kids to a higher standard, and there's nothing wrong with that. We accept that our children are going to make mistakes. Again, this is why I don't want to talk specifically about anyone. It's okay. Like, there is grace for that. Like, but let's learn from it. Let's hold our children and our players to a higher standard. There is nothing wrong with doing that, because the higher standard that we're holding them to in not trash talking is a positive. There's only positives by not trash talking. You're not telling them they can't be themselves. You're telling them to be themselves, to play hard, to work hard, to be confident in their play, but to do that without disrespecting others. That's only a positive. So I believe, like, this is a chance where we can kind of go out of this norm of just saying, well, that's what's normal now. Or it's just a part of the game. What? It's a part of the game. Whoever invented basketball or volleyball wasn't like, in the rules, like, trash talking to be expected or to be encouraged. No, it's not just a part of the game. We've just allowed it to become that way by not holding each other to a higher standard. It makes me so frustrated. Okay. But it also makes me excited because I think we're going to wake up to this and, again, call each other as coaches and moms to hold our kiddos to a higher standard. And again, we don't expect kids to be perfect, but it's just like my own children. I know they're going to make mistakes. I know I'm going to make mistakes every day. But that doesn't mean we just allow them to happen. We don't correct them. Like, just because they're kids, we're like, oh, it's just Susie, she's 6, like, she touched the stove, like, it's just what they do. No, we're like, hey, we probably shouldn't do that. Or, like, if my kid were to say a curse word in public, like, because this is a personal conviction, I'd be like, hey, yeah, we don't do that. That doesn't sound good. We just don't do that. We correct it, right? It probably will happen again. I will probably get into a volleyball match and our team will get heated, or even I'll get heated and we'll do something we don't want to do or we said we weren't going to do. And we're not just like, oh, you're just kids. Or, oh, just a normal part of the game, me yelling at the refs, you guys trash talking. Yeah, no, it's not a normal part. And no, we're not going to let it slide. We're going to hold each other to that standard. We're going to call it out and we're going to teach a better way. Last things. I think for kids, and even kids through college, like, they want boundaries, even though they think they don't want boundaries. Because again, when we set boundaries, it gives them no gray area. So if I'm like, hey, if you're on my team, we don't trash talk. We don't look through the net and yell when we get a block. I hate that. Again, that's not confidence. That's like rubbing it in someone's face. No, you get a sweet stuff block. You turn around to your team and you're like, yeah, you don't involve the other team. I hate that. I'm not here for it. So we set boundaries so it's very clear. That makes it easy for kids to know right and wrong. Like, we're not saying, like, be yourself, and then we're coming down on them later and be like, you can't do that. We're setting a boundary up front. And that's the same as moms, right? Like, we've got to set clear boundaries and stick to them and call them out so that our children aren't confused. So that is my TED Talk on trash talk. It's a personal feeling. I think it's pretty obvious there aren't a lot of upsides to trash talking. There's a lot more negatives than upsides. Most of the times in life, you weigh the pros and cons. And in this one, it seems pretty clear that if we just tried to hold our children to a higher standard and we said, hey, we're not going to do any sort of negative talk towards the other team, towards the referees, and towards our coaches, that's pretty clear. And that guess what? That's getting it at the root cause, right? And so then we get rid of it. It doesn't overshadow our play. We don't have to hold kids at different standards. Like, one kid's like, well, I can't trash talk. And the other one's like, well, I can't. It's just very clear. I want to know what y'all think. If you're watching the video podcast on YouTube, let me know in the comments. Like, what's your feelings on trash talk? Y'all, it's been a good one. Today, I'm headed into the gym for our second open gym of the season, of the spring season. So I'm super excited about that. I'm excited that you're here and we can just learn and grow together and we can hashtag make youth sports great again. All right. See y'all later. Bye.